In this, the fourth video, third session of our Office Manager Coaching course, we're going to talk through team communication. We're going to talk about training, check-ins, staying in communication with your team, and some really a great resource that I've started using over the last several years called an engagement survey that will really help you kind of get the pulse of your team and where everyone is at. It's important that everyone on the team is part of this, even people that don't necessarily sit under you in the leadership structure, because their input is going to be critical in comparing with the others' input. Another thing to keep in mind with some of the things that we're doing here, some of this is going to be anonymous, right? That sense of anonymity is going to give some safety and some peace to team members who really need to express how they feel about certain things. So we're going to talk about that first. So here we go. We're going to work through the first one, which is training. So when we're talking about training in our offices, we're talking not about meetings. You can, a book that I recommend called Traction. It's a good book that the systems and processes in that book apply to a lot of different arenas. It's written for entrepreneurs, but a lot of times your CEO or the person in charge is going to have learned processes from this book. And so you're going to need to understand it. So I recommend listening to it or reading it, whatever your preference is. I listened to it because I tended to listen to books I have to read or should read, and I read books I want to read, right? So I've got some fun Dungeons and Dragons books that I read with my eyes, and my ears read the books that are supposed to be helpful for me, right? For learning and that sort of thing. Either way, it works and it counts. So don't judge. But that book Traction provides a training rhythm that it distributes training or divides training into two sections: meetings and training. Training isn't happening if you're not role-playing situations or putting into practice the situation you've learned in your meetings, right? So our training looks like this. We get together, and this has taken years to develop and to get everybody on board, but here's where we're at. We get together, we sit down, and we do 20 to 30 minutes of a meeting. We go over the stats from the last year. We talk through everything that we did that was benefiting the office, things that may have been detrimental to the office over the week. I said the last year, but we do this weekly. We go over everything that the team members feel like they could have done to kind of improve those numbers or improve some of the work that they've done. We even go one by one. This is a new development that we're doing in our office. Everyone goes one by one and they explain their main key performance indicator, which is also something that is a business term that you've probably heard. And what your KPI is, how well it's doing, and why it's doing so well, or asking for help on what people think can happen to make it get better. So those are our training is a major, that's part of our training, is starting with evaluating how we've been doing over the last week, right? Then we go into what our topic is going to be. And I briefly mentioned, here's what we're talking about. I have already shared a video, the scripting and everything in our communication channel, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So they've had a link to the video. They've had a link to the scripting and any procedures they need to go over before we get together. They already have it. And then they separate for about an hour and a half, and they get to do role playing. So if we have scripting, they're going over the scripting. If we have, objections where it's like practicing hearing patients or clients, maybe in your case, say the negative things they're going to say in response to whatever's going on, getting practice responding to those things and coming up with responses, or reading the scripted responses and starting to form the way your brain is going to form that. And then we come back together at the end of our training and we evaluate how everyone did. Remember, it's not training if you're not putting into practice the thing that you've done. You know, a sports team is not getting together in meetings all week and then going and playing the game. They're having the meetings, learning what they need to learn, and then they're going out to a practice field and they're doing it over and over and over again, getting reps in practice before it's time to do it in the game. That's what our training is going to do. The second thing that I want to focus on is your check-ins. Now, this is individually checking in with each team member. It's going to look different for every boss, every manager. But what I try to do is a weekly just kind of check in where I pop over to whoever I'm checking in with, and I just spend 2 or 3 minutes asking them how they're doing. It's simple. It's the weekly one's simple. It's just like, And this is also from the book Traction. Some of this, I've kind of got my own version of it, but this is what works for me. I like to walk up and I say, hey, how's it going? What's going on? And they'll say, oh, this is an issue. This is good, whatever. Or sometimes it's like, I don't know, I'm just trying to get my head in the game. Things are tough at home or whatever. It's that check-in is more casual, more laid back. And then you've got that's weekly. And then you've got your monthly check-ins. Those monthly check-ins are spaced out more where you can talk about a little more of what's going on in this team member's job, right? How have things been going? This is when you bring the KPI into the conversation and say, hey, let's look at your numbers. What do they look like? Great, you're hitting your goals. Why do you think you're being successful in hitting your goals when maybe you weren't last month? Why do you think you're not when you were last month? Whatever those questions are, you get that feedback back. You can get a lot of great information on how to do these check-ins in other trainings and in books like Traction and things like that. And then we do a quarterly check-in, right? Where we sit down with them after 3 months, my CEO and I, we sit down with them and we talk through, they do a progress evaluation that they fill out themselves. They rate themselves on each different category in their job description from 0 to 5. They get to tell us, hey, I feel like I'm not doing well on this. I'm doing well on this. And my question at these check-ins is not, why aren't you doing better? It's, what can we do to help you improve this? What do you need from us to help you get better in this area? And, typically the answer is, I feel like I need more communication around this, or I feel like I need more clarity around this particular thing that I'm talking about. And so I'm able to get some feedback and work through those things with them, right? Every now and then I'll get somebody who's like, I don't know what to do. And then I have to provide ideas. And then I've had times when somebody just never wanted to engage in these check-ins and they just didn't work there for very much longer, right? It just didn't work out because this is a big part of it. So we have to prioritize the check-ins. This is when the communication happens. I can't tell you how good it feels to sit down with a team member and they start talking about the issue they're having with this other group of team members. They start talking about the stuff that's going on and my mind is blown because I'm like, man, we needed to know this stuff. And so I use these check-ins to develop our meetings, our training, our leadership team meeting conversations. These check-ins form that so that the team members see progress and they begin to understand that we're actually doing what we can to help them feel like they're heard and they're listened to and things are happening in the office. So this training, the team check-ins, they all feed into each other. The next thing is constant contact. Being in constant communication with your team is critical, and it's not always easy. And one thing that I like to do that I'm going to show you in a second is we have a separate messaging app. One of our team members, she had been recommending we do this for a while, and we kind of didn't until finally some communication mishaps kind of happened. And I said, you know what? You're right. We need to do this. And so we started doing it. And so what we did is, and I'll take you to an example now. This obviously isn't the one I use for work because I couldn't show you that. This is the one that is being set up to be used for those of you who are doing the coaching program. You'll be able to have access to this. You should have gotten an invite to have access to this the Slack channels that you can come in here and we can work together, support each other, help each other out. So this is Slack. I have this for our office as well. And our office has a whole bunch of Slack channels. We have the main announcements channel. We have a channel that is geared towards financial updates that goes to our back office, a channel that's front desk centered, a channel for training where I post the links that are relevant for each week's trainings. We have all of that there. The good thing about this is the free version. You don't pay any money for this. This is Slack. You may have heard of it. You may already use it, but here's what I love about it, okay, is I'm able to go in here ahead of time. And as soon as I have what I need ready for my meetings and for my schedules, I can schedule messages to go out. And I can say, this week's training is about this or that. And then I can go here and say, all right, I'm sitting here on a Sunday. I want it to go out at Monday at 9 a.m. because our meeting is on Wednesday, our training meeting. And so that gives them 2 days, over 2 days, to make sure that they've got everything set and they're ready to go for training. And I give them all the details they need, all the links they need, and I put it all there. I also use our wiki, as I mentioned in previous videos. I have a whole training section in our wiki. This is the training section in our wiki. It is set up by all the topics we're going to do training over. 24 topics. We're going to cover them twice a year. Mixed in there are some of our quarterly meetings and things like that. And because of that, that's why like quarterly scoreboard meeting, some of those, that's why there's 24 and not, enough to cover a whole 6 months. We also have a holiday here and there that we don't get together on Wednesdays for a meeting. But you can see this is my training. I'm still setting some of this up in the later weeks, but I've caught up. I'm catching up to where what I do is I post a link to this right here. So this link gets posted to my team in Slack on Monday. They can click that, and then that gives them access to this page, right? This page gives them access to my training video that I made. And also, each department has their own section. When they click on their section, it takes them to the part that is relevant for them, the scripting and any policies and procedures that's relevant for them that day, right? So going back to training, this is how I prep my team for training. I have a whole setup ready for them for them to be able to access anything they need. They can go in here to themselves and they can work on training themselves and find whatever they're going to be working on, even if my link hasn't been posted yet. This is public for them to be able to find as well. Most of the time, that's not what happens, but it's a possibility for them, right? And so I have all these updates ready to go to where when they click into it, you'll see they'll click into it. There's a video ready for them to go over. This particular one is about our report of findings. It's got a report of findings video in it because that's what our doctor goes over everything. It's got my video that I made specifically for this particular training that goes over what we're going to be doing. So I'm not doing that when we get together. It's done ahead of time. And all of that I post in a Slack message right here, a link to that one page that then sends them to everywhere else that they can go, right? So this communication gives them no excuse. They know what's going on. They know how to get to the resources they need. Between the wiki, the Slack messages, and all of that, they've got what they need. The next thing that I think is critical for us to focus on whenever we're talking about communication with our team is a team survey. And this team survey we have our team fill out quarterly. I'm going to show you the survey in just a minute. But the survey is super important because I use this survey to establish some of the questions I ask in my check-in, right? And some of the ways that we handle training. Because as you look through the questions in the survey, you're going to see why a lot of this will be very relevant to what we're doing in trainings and check-ins. The survey that I use is based off of the book by Gallup, who does the Strength Finders, about the common workplace and what people need to have a healthy, happy workplace environment. These are the 12 questions that we can use to better serve each of our team members, maximize their ability to work in our office. Here's the questions that we ask in our survey. And this is rate true to false, 1 to 10, right? I know what's expected of me at work. I have all the materials and equipment I need to do my work right. At work, I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day. In the past 7 days, I've received recognition or praise for doing good work. That's a big one. This one doesn't always get a high score, especially if you have bosses who really push for excellence or to do as good as possible because they want to focus so much on how you could have done better that they don't praise you for doing any of the good things that you've done, right? So we have to be careful. This gives us a pulse into that. How are we doing? My supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. That's good. It's important, more important than just they want me to work. There's someone at work who encourages my development. People want to grow, do better. At work, my opinion seems to count. This one's huge as well. You don't want to work somewhere where you sound like you're screaming into a void and nobody listens to you. The mission or purpose of my company makes me feel my job is important. This is huge, especially these days, because a lot of the culture tells us that work is irrelevant. It's just to make money. And some of us, especially if we're working in a wellness clinic or doctor's office, we're trying to really help people. So our purpose of our office should make people feel like what they do is important, right? My associates or fellow employees are committed to doing quality work. This is how they feel about the people around them. This can tell you a lot if it's a low score. If there's somebody on the team that is making everyone else feel like they don't care as much. I have good friends at work. This used to say I have a best friend at work. I thought that wasn't very relevant for a lot of workplaces. So this is I have good friends at work. People that I don't mind spending time with outside of the office is pretty important, especially when you're working in a high stress environment, right? In the last 6 months, someone at work has talked to me about my progress. That's again, checking in. Those check-ins accomplish this. If this is a low score, are you doing your check-ins? Are you meeting with people weekly, monthly, quarterly? And then this past year, I've had opportunities at work to learn and grow. We don't want to feel stuck. We want to feel like we can do everything we can do. And then the last thing is what's called an employee net promoter score, okay? So this is simple. This is going to give us a good idea of the general happiness of our team members. How likely would you be to recommend a close friend work in our office? And if it's lower than an 8, you have a problem. We want them to at least be an 8 on this. How likely are you? If somebody were to say, hey man, your workplace seems like a cool place to work, you want your team to be like, yeah, it is. It's really great. I recommend you go there and you work with me. We actually have an opening. You should bring in an application. That's something that is critical and can tell you a lot about the culture in your office and how people feel working in your office. So all of these things together, training, your check-ins, being in constant contact messaging, and team surveys, they're going to take different shapes where you work. They're going to look a little different for each of us, correct? But they're going to be the 4 key things that help your office run more efficiently. These systems working together help solve the team problem, the people problem that we often have in our office, because they're either not trained fully, they're not letting us know how they feel, so those check-ins and surveys are required, and we're not communicating good enough. People who don't know what's going on. We had a major problem for a while with our part-timers not knowing what's happening because sometimes they weren't even there for our trainings. Now we have all hands on deck on our trainings, and that's gotten a lot better. But we also have those Slack messages, those Slack channels that keeps everyone informed. So even though the back office is only in for 3 shifts a week, she knows what she needs to do when she sits down to work on those things every shift that she's there. And whenever she does start working on them and she says, I've accomplished this thing, she puts a little check mark on there so the rest of the team knows it's been done. It's been checked through. So I just want to encourage you that you use your strengths plus your team plus communication will equal success. You will have success in your job if you use your strengths, what you're good at. For me, it's the people, it's the maximizing. Whenever I get low survey scores, it hurts me personally. It stinks, man, because I want my team to feel like they're maximized and they're listened to. But we've got 15 people now, and it's me and it's them. And I've got 2 leaders that handle different departments, but I'm trying to lead them. They're trying to lead their teams, and we're all working together. And so it can be difficult and complex, but without the communication, without the team, their input in the survey and in communication through the Slack messaging, without training and going through our meetings, we're not going to see success. We're not going to see things work out the way we want them. So I recommend you implement these 4 things. This is huge. And when we meet in our one-on-ones, we can talk about what are you doing for communication? How can we set that up? I will sit there with you and get it set up if that's what you need. That's what we're here for. So thanks so much, and we will see you on the next one.